Hey guys, tonight we're taking a deep dive, literally, into one of the most astonishing feats of ancient engineering and agricultural genius. Forget the pyramids of Giza or the Great Wall of China for a moment. We're traveling to the heart of what is now modern-day Mexico City, but back in the 15th century, it was the awe-inspiring capital of the Aztec Empire, Tenochtitlan. Imagine a city of hundreds of thousands of people, built on an island in the middle of a vast lake, thriving and expanding. And how did they feed themselves? That's where the obsession with floating vegetables comes in, through an incredible system of chinampas, or floating gardens. You might think growing food is pretty straightforward, but the ingenuity of these Aztec gardeners will absolutely blow your mind. You probably won't survive this journey into ancient agriculture without a serious craving for a sustainable, homegrown salad. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always cool to see how far these bedtime history trips reach, connecting us across time and space. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together, into the watery green wonders of Aztec farming. Our story begins with a monumental challenge. How do you feed a burgeoning island metropolis, a city that grew to perhaps 200,000 people or more by the early 16th century? The Aztecs, or more accurately, the Mexica people, settled in the Valley of Mexico on an island in Lake Texcoco. While strategically defensible, an island isn't exactly prime farmland. The limited arable land posed a severe constraint on their ability to grow enough food for their rapidly expanding population. This problem of sustenance was a looming crisis for any major ancient city, but for an island city, it was amplified tenfold. This challenge of feeding a large urban population with limited land is a mainstream historical fact that drove many agricultural innovations across civilizations. The traditional agricultural methods simply wouldn't cut it, relying on mainland. Farming was too inefficient, too vulnerable, and couldn't scale to meet the demands of a city of that size. The lake, while providing water and fish, was mostly brackish, and its surrounding marshlands weren't ideal for conventional farming. The Aztecs faced a seemingly insurmountable problem. Too many mouths, not enough land. Their solution, however, was nothing short of genius. A testament to their deep understanding of their environment and their engineering prowess. They didn't try to conquer the lake by draining it entirely. Instead, they decided to make the lake itself their farmland. Their answer was the chinampas, often referred to as floating gardens or floating fields. But here's a quirky tidbit. They weren't truly floating in the sense of drifting around. They were actually stationary, rectangular plots of land built up from the lakebed, anchored by willow trees. Imagine long, narrow artificial islands, separated by narrow canals. They literally created new, incredibly fertile land out of the water. Historians still debate the precise origin and evolution of chinampa technology, but their widespread use and sophisticated construction are undeniable. The concept was simple, yet revolutionary. By building up fertile land within the shallow parts of the lake, it could leverage the constant water supply for irrigation and tap into the nutrient-rich sediment at the bottom of the lake. It was a perfectly integrated agricultural system, a harmonious blend of human ingenuity and natural resources. This wasn't just farming, it was ecosystem engineering on a grand scale. The Aztecs weren't just obsessed with floating vegetables because it was cool. They were obsessed because it was the lifeline of their entire civilization. It allowed them to transform a seemingly hostile environment into one of the most productive agricultural landscapes in the ancient world. The scale of this project was immense. Around Tenochtitlan, vast networks of these chinampas stretched for miles, turning large sections of the lake into a checkerboard of green fields and shimmering waterways. This transformation required immense communal labor and sophisticated planning, demonstrating the highly organized nature of Aztec society. It wasn't just a few garden plots. It was an agricultural industrial complex floating on water, sustaining an empire. The ability to build and maintain such a system speaks volumes about the administrative and engineering capabilities of the Aztec state. So, as the sun rose over Tenochtitlan, it shone not just on temples and palaces, but on a city literally built and fed by its watery gardens, having set the stage with the monumental challenge of feeding Tenochtitlan. Let's now peel back the layers, quite literally, to understand the brilliant chinampas, engineering genius behind these floating gardens. This wasn't just a haphazard piling of dirt. It was a sophisticated, multi-layered system designed to maximize fertility, optimize irrigation, and endure for centuries. The Aztecs were truly hydroengineers of the highest order. The basic design of a chinampa was a long, narrow, rectangular plot of land. Their dimensions were carefully chosen, typically between 2.5 to 10 meters wide and up to 400 meters long. This narrow width was crucial, ensuring that every part of the plot was close enough to the surrounding water for easy irrigation and nutrient absorption. Imagine trying to farm a football field that's also an island. It's too wide in the middle. Part dries out. The Aztecs solved this with elegant simplicity. This specific, efficient, rectangular design is a mainstream historical fact, central to chinampa productivity. The construction of a chinampa was a laborious, multi-stage process, demanding immense communal effort and specialized knowledge. It began in the shallow, marshy areas of Lake Texcoco. First, Aztec engineers and laborers would mark out the rectangular plot by driving long wooden stakes, often made from willow or cypress, into the lake bed. These stakes served as the initial framework and, crucially, as anchors. They didn't just float, they were rooted. Next, the space between these stakes was filled with layers of organic material. This is where the true genius and the quirky tidbit comes in. They would dredge up nutrient-rich mud and decaying vegetation from the bottom of the surrounding canals and lake bed. This incredibly fertile muck, teeming with decomposed plant matter and fish waste, was then layered onto the staked-out plot. Imagine shoveling literally tons of pungent, black lake sludge onto these nascent fields. It was a dirty, smelly job, but it provided unparalleled natural fertilizer. Historians still debate the exact composition of these layers, but the principle of organic enrichment is clear. Its constant dredging also served to deepen the canals. It's making them navigable for canoes and preventing them from silting up, creating a self-sustaining system. Interspersed with the mud and decaying plants would be layers of more solid material, reeds, rushes, and branches, which provided structure and aeration. These layers prevented the chinampa from becoming too waterlogged and allowed the roots of the crops to breathe. Finally, a top layer of richer cultivated soil was added, creating the perfect growing medium. This multi-layered construction was essential for the chinampa's exceptional fertility and long-term viability. It wasn't just dirt on water. It was a carefully engineered compost pile, alive with nutrients. Along the edges of these newly formed plots, willow trees were strategically planted. These trees, known for their fast growth and extensive root systems, served a dual purpose. Their roots would intertwine and grow deep into the lake bed, firmly anchoring the chinampa and preventing erosion. Over time, these trees formed a living wall, stabilizing the edges of the gardens and preventing the valuable soil from washing away. They were the natural rebar of the Aztec agricultural system. The narrow canals between the chinampas were not just for irrigation. They were vital for transportation. Small, flat-bottomed canoes would navigate these waterways, allowing farmers to access their plots, transport tools, bring new layers of mud, and crucially, carry harvested produce to the city's markets. The entire system was designed for efficiency, a testament to a society that understood how to harness both nature and human labor for maximum output. So, the chinampas were far more than just floating vegetable patches. They were sophisticated feats of ecological engineering, transforming a challenging lake environment into an agricultural powerhouse. Their design maximized fertility, ensured continuous irrigation, and provided a stable, productive base for feeding an entire empire. It truly was an obsession born of necessity, meticulously built, layer by layer. With an ingenuity that continues to inspire awe today, with the chinampas meticulously constructed, their design offered an unparalleled advantage: constant, effortless irrigation. This wasn't farming reliant on unpredictable rainfall or laborious bucket and well systems. Instead, the very nature of their construction allowed the surrounding water's gentle embrace to continuously nourish the crops, creating a perpetually hydrated and thriving agricultural landscape. Imagine the roots of the plants, extending down through the rich soil and organic layers, reaching directly into the ever-present water of the canals. This meant the plants received a steady, consistent supply of moisture, preventing drought, stress, and ensuring optimal growth. There was no need for farmers to spend hours hauling water from a distant well or diverting precious river flow. The water was literally right there, a constant, silent partner in their cultivation. And this inherent passive irrigation system is a mainstream historical fact, key benefit of chinampa agriculture. The genius lay in the precise water level of Lake Texcoco's shallow southern zone, where most chinampas were built. The depth of the canals, carefully maintained by regular dredging, which also provided fertilizer, allowed the water to seep up through the permeable layers of the chinampa plots through capillary action. Think of it like a giant natural self-watering planter. The water would wick upwards, reaching the root systems without waterlogging the surface, creating the perfect balance of moisture and aeration for the crops. This natural process eliminated the need for complex irrigation canals, pumps, or extensive human labor dedicated solely to watering. The constant presence of water also created a unique microclimate. During the hot, dry season, the evaporation from the canals would slightly cool the air immediately surrounding the chinampas, protecting the delicate crops from extreme heat. This moderating effect on temperature extended the growing season and reduced plant stress, contributing to higher yields. It was a natural form of climate control, integrated directly into the agricultural system. A quirky tidbit. Some researchers hypothesize that the Aztecs might have also intentionally introduced certain aquatic plants or algae into the canals, not just for dredging, but to help maintain water purity or to provide additional organic matter for future chinampa replenishment. This shows an even deeper understanding of aquatic ecosystems. Historians still debate the full extent of this ecological management. Furthermore, the canals weren't just for irrigation, they were vibrant ecosystems in themselves. Fish, amphibians, and various aquatic insects thrived in the clear, nutrient-rich waters. These aquatic creatures, in turn, contributed to the fertility of the chinampas by their waste, which would be regularly dredged and applied to the fields. It was a beautifully closed-loop system, where every element contributed to the overall productivity and health of the environment. The water fed the plants, and the aquatic life in the water helped fertilize the soil. The constant access to water also made pest control somewhat easier. Farmers could flood certain plots or create barriers using water to deter some pests, though this would have been a more advanced or occasional practice. It also allowed for easy washing of harvested vegetables and direct transport of produce by canoe, further enhancing efficiency. So the water was not a barrier to the Aztec gardeners' obsession. It was their greatest ally. The chinampas, through their ingenious design, harnessed the lake's gentle embrace to provide continuous, effortless irrigation, creating an agricultural paradise that defied the limitations of an island city. It was a profound lesson in working with nature rather than against it, ensuring a bountiful harvest year after year, all from what might seem like an unlikely place, the middle of a lake. With the constant flow of life-giving water assured, the next secret to the chinampas' success lay in their unparalleled fertility. These weren't just any gardens. They delivered nutrient-rich harvests thanks to a continuous, almost magical infusion of organic matter and lake sediment. This ecological design allowed Aztec farmers to achieve astonishing yields, far surpassing traditional rain-fed agriculture. The primary source of this incredible fertility was the lake mud itself. The Aztecs intentionally dredged the rich black sediment from the bottom of the surrounding canals and the lake bed. This mud was not just inert soil. It was a treasure trove of decomposed organic matter, decaying plants, aquatic life, fish, waste, and even animal and human waste from the city that drained into the lake. This rich black silt was teeming with essential nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Literally, nature's perfect fertilizer. Imagine having an endless supply of nutrient-dense compost delivered right to your crops simply by scooping it up. This continuous enrichment from lake sediment is a mainstream historical fact, a key component of chinampa productivity. This dredged mud was regularly applied in layers to the surface of the chinampas. This constant replenishment of nutrients meant that the soil never became depleted. Unlike traditional fields that require crop rotation or heavy fertilization after a few growing seasons, it was a perpetually regenerating fertility system. As the farmers dredged the canals, they were not only deepening the waterways for navigation, but also harvesting the very essence of their soil's vitality. It was a brilliant, self-sustaining cycle of productivity. Beyond the lake mud, Aztec gardeners were also adept at incorporating other forms of organic matter. They would collect and compost decaying plants from the chinampas themselves, as well as reeds and grasses from the lake. Animal manure from domestic animals, though fewer large livestock than in Europe, and even human waste, likely from dedicated collection systems, rather than direct application, would have been used to further enrich the soil. This sophisticated understanding of composting and nutrient cycling speaks volumes about their advanced agricultural knowledge. It was far beyond simple farming. It was applied ecology on a massive scale. The combination of constant moisture and abundant nutrients led to extraordinary productivity. Chinampas were capable of supporting multiple harvests per year, sometimes up to 7 crops annually in ideal conditions, a feat almost unheard of in other ancient agricultural systems. This high yield was crucial for feeding the dense population of Tenochtitlan and its surrounding settlements. The intense fertility meant that even a relatively small area of chinampas could feed a very large number of people, making it one of the most efficient and productive agricultural systems in history. A quirky tidbit about their meticulous methods: Aztec farmers used special tools, sometimes long-handled shovels made from hardened wood or copper, to carefully scoop and spread the rich mud onto the chinampa surfaces, ensuring even distribution of the precious fertilizer. This manual labor, though intensive, was highly rewarding in terms of yields. Historians still debate the exact yields per chinampa given varying crop types and environmental conditions, but the consensus is that they were exceptionally productive. The quality of the produce was also high. Constant nutrient supply and optimal moisture conditions meant that the vegetables and other crops grown on chinampas were vibrant, healthy, and flavorful. This allowed the Aztec markets to brim with an incredible variety of fresh, high-quality produce year-round, contributing to a diverse and nutritious diet for the population. So, the Aztec obsession with floating vegetables wasn't just about clever engineering. It was about mastering the art of fertility. By harnessing the nutrient-rich embrace of the lake and meticulously recycling organic matter, they transformed a watery landscape into an agricultural powerhouse, yielding bountiful, nutrient-rich harvests that sustained an entire empire. It was a profound lesson in ecological harmony and sustainable productivity. A green revolution centuries ahead of its time. The chinampas, with their consistent irrigation and incredible fertility, became canvases for an astonishing agricultural tapestry. It wasn't just about staple crops. It was about diversity on water, allowing Aztec gardeners to cultivate an incredibly wide variety of crops that provided a rich and balanced diet for the millions within their empire. This horticultural diversity was a secret weapon against famine, and a testament to their sophisticated agricultural knowledge. The most prominent crops grown on the chinampas were the Mesoamerican staples: maize, corn, beans, and squash. These 3 crops, known as the Three Sisters, were often grown together in a symbiotic relationship on the same plot. Maize provided a stalk for the beans to climb. Beans fixed nitrogen in the soil, and squash leaves provided ground cover, suppressing weeds and retaining moisture. This polyculture approach is a mainstream historical fact, widely practiced across Mesoamerica for its efficiency and ecological benefits, but the diversity extended far beyond these staples. Aztec gardeners cultivated a remarkable array of other vegetables, fruits, and edible plants. Imagine vibrant fields of chili peppers, providing essential spice and vitamins. Tomatoes and tomatillos, adding thyme and flavor. Various types of amaranth and chia, highly nutritious seeds that were vital protein sources, and leafy greens like qualites. They also grew root vegetables, herbs for medicinal purposes, and flowers for ceremonial use or decoration. This wide spectrum of cultivated plants ensured dietary variety and nutritional completeness, contributing to the health and resilience of the Aztec population. The chinampa system was uniquely suited for this kind of intensive, diverse cultivation. The constant moisture and nutrient replenishment meant that the soil was rarely exhausted, even with continuous planting. The narrow plots allowed gardeners easy access to every plant, enabling meticulous care, weeding, and pest management by hand. It was a form of precision agriculture centuries before the term existed. This constant care ensured healthy growth and maximum yields from a multitude of crops. A quirky tidbit about their ingenious planting methods. Aztec farmers used special tools, sometimes long-handled shovels made from hardened wood or copper, to carefully scoop and spread the rich mud onto the chinampa surfaces, ensuring even distribution of the precious fertilizer. This manual labor, though intensive, was highly rewarding in terms of yields. Historians still debate the exact yields per chinampa given varying crop types and environmental conditions. But the consensus is that they were exceptionally productive. This incredible agricultural diversity supported a complex and thriving society. It allowed for specialized roles within the farming communities, with some chinampa plots dedicated to specific cash crops for the vast markets of Tenochtitlan, while others provided daily sustenance for individual families. The abundance and variety of produce were critical for maintaining social order and preventing famine, which often plagued other large ancient cities. So, the Aztec gardener's obsession with floating vegetables was about more than just food quantity. It was about cultivating a rich, diverse, and perpetually productive agricultural landscape. The chinampas were living laboratories of biodiversity, showcasing an advanced understanding of polyculture and nutrient management that allowed them to literally grow an empire on water. It's a powerful lesson in sustainable diversity and ingenious adaptation, proving that even a challenging environment can yield incredible bounty with the right blend of knowledge and effort. The brilliance of the chinampas wasn't just in their diverse output, it was in their ability to deliver it almost continuously. This unique system allowed for a year-round bounty, providing fresh produce to the teeming markets of Tenochtitlan. Regardless of seasonal variations that often plagued traditional rain-fed agriculture, this uninterrupted supply of food was a cornerstone of Aztec prosperity and resilience. Unlike mainland farming, which was largely dependent on seasonal rainfall and distinct growing cycles, the chinampas, with their constant water supply from the lake, were effectively immune to drought. This meant that Aztec gardeners could plant and harvest crops almost continuously throughout the year. As soon as one crop was harvested, pre-germinated seedlings from the almasigos could be immediately moved in, preventing any fallow periods and maximizing land use efficiency. Imagine having a farm that never sleeps, constantly churning out fresh produce. This continuous cultivation capability is a mainstream historical fact, significant advantage of chinampa agriculture. The ambient temperature of the Valley of Mexico certainly played a role, allowing for year-round growth for many crops. However, the chinampa system itself created a unique microclimate that further optimized conditions. The constant evaporation from the surrounding canals moderated temperature extremes, keeping the soil slightly cooler in the intense heat of the dry season and slightly warmer during cooler periods. This buffer protected delicate crops from temperature shocks and extended the growing window for many varieties, contributing to the year-round productivity. It was like a natural living greenhouse, subtly regulating the environment for optimal plant growth. The meticulous use of seedbeds almasigos also facilitated this continuous cycle. By starting seedlings in these miniature floating nurseries, Aztec gardeners ensured a steady supply of young plants ready for transplant. As one chinampa plot finished its harvest, pre-germinated seedlings from the almasigos could be immediately moved in, preventing any fallow periods and maximizing land use efficiency. This precision planning and continuous rotation of crops from seedling beds to active plots was a highly sophisticated aspect of their agricultural management. A quirky tidbit: some sources suggest that Aztec farmers would even utilize the heat generated by composting layers within the chinampas themselves to provide gentle bottom heat for early seedling germination during cooler periods. An ancient form of soil warming. Historians still debate the specific techniques used to manage thermal gradients in the chinampa soil. This uninterrupted supply of fresh food had profound implications for Aztec society. It provided food security for a massive urban population, mitigating the risk of famine that often devastated other ancient cities. This food security allowed Tenochtitlan to grow and thrive, freeing up a significant portion of its population from direct food production, enabling them to specialize in crafts, trade, and military endeavors. It was the backbone of their imperial power and urban development. The consistent abundance also meant that the markets of Tenochtitlan were always well stocked with fresh, vibrant produce, contributing to a diverse and healthy diet for all social classes. This was a striking contrast to many European cities of the same period, which often faced seasonal shortages and reliance on preserved foods for much of the year. The Aztec capital was a culinary paradise, always offering a fresh bounty, a testament to the unparalleled productivity of its floating gardens. So, the Aztec gardener's obsession with floating vegetables was not just about overcoming the challenge of limited land. It was about mastering the art of continuous, year-round production. The chinampas were ecological engines, perpetually yielding a rich and diverse bounty that fueled an entire empire, showcasing a level of agricultural sophistication that truly transcended the limitations of their era. It was a remarkable achievement, a green revolution flourishing on water, providing constant sustenance and prosperity. The chinampas were far more than just agricultural fields. They were the very bedrock upon which Aztec society functioned. Their existence fundamentally shaped social structures, labor organization, and the daily lives of millions, embodying chinampas as social fabric. This system required an immense, organized workforce and fostered a unique relationship between the citizens and their sustenance. The construction and maintenance of the chinampas demanded a massive, highly organized communal labor force. This wasn't something individual families could manage alone. The Aztec state, through its intricate hierarchical system, would organize groups of commoners, or Mecawalton, to participate in the arduous tasks of dredging canals, building new plots, and maintaining existing ones. This system of communal labor, often a form of tribute or public service, ensured the continuous expansion and productivity of the chinampa system. Imagine a city where everyone contributes, directly or indirectly, to farming the land that feeds them all. This large-scale, organized communal labor is a mainstream historical fact, central to Aztec public works. The chinampas were typically owned by Calpulli neighborhood units or clans, or by noble families. But the labor for them was often shared. This meant that while there was a hierarchy of ownership, there was also a shared responsibility for productivity. The close proximity of the chinampa plots, separated only by narrow canals, naturally fostered strong community bonds among the farmers. They would work side by side, sharing knowledge, tools, and even meals. Imagine the daily conversations across the narrow waterways. Camaraderie built from shared physical effort and the common goal of feeding an empire. The landscape of the chinampas influenced social life. The network of canals served as the primary transportation routes for farmers, allowing them to move tools, supplies, and harvested produce directly from the fields to the city's markets. This ease of transport eliminated the need for extensive road networks for agricultural goods, further integrating the farming communities directly into the urban economic system. It was a perfectly designed logistical system, flowing as smoothly as the water in the canals. A quirky tidbit: the highly intensive nature of chinampa agriculture meant that Aztec farmers were likely some of the most knowledgeable and specialized cultivators in the ancient world. They understood crop rotations, nutrient cycling, pest management, and the specific needs of a vast array of plants. This specialized knowledge was passed down through generations, making them true horticultural masters. Historians still debate the specific social status and economic autonomy of chinampa farmers compared to other commoners in Aztec society. The efficiency and productivity of the chinampas meant that not everyone had to be a farmer. A significant portion of the Aztec population could specialize in other crafts: pottery, weaving, masonry, artistry, and military service because food production was so incredibly efficient. This agricultural surplus allowed for the development of a complex, stratified society with specialized professions, a thriving economy, and a powerful military. It was the abundant chinampas that ultimately supported the grandeur of Tenochtitlan and the expansion of the Aztec Empire. The chinampa system also served as a powerful symbol of Aztec ingenuity and their unique relationship with their environment. A visible manifestation of their ability to transform a seemingly inhospitable lake into a fertile breadbasket. It showcased their mastery over nature, not through brute force, but through clever adaptation and harmonious integration. So that Aztec gardeners' obsession with floating vegetables wasn't just about feeding people, but it was about building a civilization. The chinampas were the literal and metaphorical fabric of their society, shaping their labor, fostering their communities, and providing the economic and social stability that allowed an island empire to flourish. They were living, breathing agricultural wonders that underpinned the entire Aztec world. The remarkable productivity and logistical efficiency of the chinampas naturally led to an equally remarkable economic phenomenon: the floating markets. Pulse. The great market of Tlatelolco, located just north of Tenochtitlan, was not merely a place of commerce. It was the vibrant, beating heart of the Aztec Empire's economy and a cultural hub that astonished the Spanish conquistadors with its sheer scale and organization. This market was directly fueled by the continuous bounty of the synhaps. Imagine Hernan Cortes and his men, upon first seeing Tlatelolco, describing it as twice as large as the city of Salamanca. With arcades where more than 60,000 people come each day to buy and sell, this massive market was a mainstream historical fact. Vividly described by the Spanish, showcasing the economic power of Tenochtitlan, it was a sensory overload: the cacophony of voices, the vibrant colors of produce, the rich aromas of cooking, food, and the constant movement of people. The lifeblood of this market was the produce from the chinampas. Every day, countless small flat-bottomed canoes, laden with freshly harvested vegetables, fruits, and flowers would paddle along the extensive network of canals directly to the market. You can imagine the early morning bustle as farmers navigated their way, bringing their precious cargo to sell. This direct, water-based transport system was incredibly efficient, minimizing spoilage and ensuring that consumers in the city had access to a continuous supply of fresh, high-quality food. It was the ancient world's most sophisticated farm-to-table delivery system. The sheer diversity and abundance of produce available at the market was legendary. Thanks to the chinampas' year-round productivity and their ability to grow a wide variety of crops, the market offered everything from maize, beans, and squash to chili peppers, tomatoes, avocados, and exotic fruits like supotes and cherimoyas. There were also flowers for ceremonial use, herbs for medicinal purposes, and even live animals. This constant availability of fresh food contributed directly to the health and well-being of the urban population, preventing the seasonal shortages common in other ancient cities. Beyond food, the market sold a vast array of other goods: textiles, pottery, jewelry, obsidian tools, feathers, and even slaves. But the agricultural section was paramount, underpinning the entire economic structure. The Aztec economy did not primarily use metallic currency. Instead, goods were often exchanged through barter, or smaller items like cacao beans and quills, filled with gold dust, served as units of value. Imagine haggling over the price of a basket of chili peppers using cacao beans. A truly unique economic experience. A quirky tidbit: to ensure fair trade and prevent fraud, specialized market officials, known as tianquitli, meticulously oversaw all transactions, often carrying long staffs to measure goods or settle disputes on the spot. This level of market regulation highlights the importance the Aztecs placed on maintaining order and fairness in their vital economic hub. Historians still debate the precise mechanisms of Aztec market economics, but its vibrancy is undeniable. The floating market wasn't just a place for commerce. It was a central social and cultural gathering point. People from all walks of life, farmers, artisans, warriors, nobles would converge there. It was a place to exchange news, gossip, and ideas, a vibrant microcosm of Aztec society. The efficient food supply it facilitated was fundamental to the empire's stability, allowing other aspects of society, like specialized crafts and imperial expansion, to flourish. So, the Aztec gardener's obsession with floating vegetables was directly linked to the very pulse of their empire. The chinampas literally created the abundance that fed the floating market, which in turn powered the vast economic and social machinery of Tenochtitlan. It was a remarkable system, showcasing not just agricultural genius, but also an advanced understanding of urban logistics, resource distribution, and the fundamental role of food in sustaining a complex civilization. The chinampas were not merely agricultural wonders, they were profound acts of environmental stewardship. Their design and continuous operation positioned the Aztec gardeners as true beyond food ecosystem engineers, actively shaping and enhancing their aquatic environment for long-term productivity and ecological health. This holistic approach to agriculture offers powerful lessons in human-nature symbiosis. At its core, the chinampa system was a brilliant example of sustainable aquaculture and waste management. The continuous dredging of mud from the canals, while providing rich fertilizer for the chinampas, also served to keep the waterways clear and deep. This prevented silting, ensuring that the canals remained navigable for canoes and that water flow was maintained, which was essential for the chinampas' passive irrigation. This self-cleaning aspect of the canal system is a mainstream historical fact, crucial for its longevity. The canals themselves were not just agricultural arteries, they were thriving aquatic ecosystems. Fish, amphibians, and various aquatic insects thrived in the clear, nutrient-rich waters. These animals, in turn, contributed to the chinampas' fertility through their waste, creating a closed-loop system where every element recycled nutrients. The fish provided an additional source of protein for the Aztec diet, and their presence also helped control insect populations around the gardens. Imagine a farm where the very infrastructure helps cultivate both plants and animals simultaneously. The strategic planting of willow and cypress trees along the chinampa edges served as vital ecological engineers. Their extensive root systems not only anchored the plots and prevented erosion, but also helped to filter the water, absorbing excess nutrients and pollutants and stabilizing the fragile lake ecosystem. These trees provided shade for the workers, reduced wind erosion, and even contributed biomass for composting or fuel. They were living walls, protecting and nurturing the entire system. Quirky tidbit: the axolotl, a unique salamander native to Lake Xochimilco, the modern remnant of Lake Texcoco, thrived in the chinampa canals, becoming a sacred animal to the Aztecs and a source of food. Its survival today is directly linked to the few remaining chinampa systems. Historians still debate the precise intention behind every ecological benefit. Some were likely happy accidents, others deliberate discoveries. The chinampa system also contributed to flood control. By creating a vast network of raised fields and controlled waterways, the Aztecs effectively managed water levels during periods of heavy rainfall, reducing flooding in Tenochtitlan itself. Excess water, preventing the city from becoming waterlogged, while simultaneously protecting the crops from being submerged. This hydraulic engineering aspect of the chinampas was a critical urban planning benefit. Furthermore, The cultivation of a diverse array of crops on the chinampas promoted biodiversity within the agricultural system itself. Unlike monoculture, growing a single crop, which can deplete soil and be vulnerable to disease, the polyculture practices on chinampas fostered a healthier soil ecosystem and greater resilience against pests and blights. The constant layering of organic matter also created rich, healthy soil that supported a vibrant microbial community. So, the Aztec obsession with floating vegetables was not just about feeding an empire, it was about masterfully engineering an ecosystem. The chinampas demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of ecological principles long before the term ecology existed. They were a testament to a civilization that worked with nature, not against it, creating a highly productive, self-sustaining, and environmentally beneficial agricultural system that truly set them apart as ancient ecosystem engineers. The story of the chinampas, a testament to Aztec ingenuity, took a tragic turn with the arrival of the Spanish. The Spanish conquest's shadow fell heavily upon Tenochtitlan and its floating gardens, leading to centuries of decline, misunderstanding, and ultimately the near eradication of this once thriving agricultural system. It was a clash of cultures, technologies, and environmental philosophies, with devastating consequences for the chinampas. When Hernan Cortes and his conquistadors arrived in 1519, they were astonished by Tenochtitlan's grandeur and its surrounding chinampas. They recognized the immense productivity, but likely misunderstood the complex ecological balance that sustained them. Their primary motivation was conquest and extraction of wealth, not agricultural preservation or sustainable living. This clash of civilizations and priorities is a mainstream historical fact, leading to profound changes in Mesoamerica. The immediate impact of the conquest was catastrophic. The siege of Tenochtitlan in 1521 devastated the city, including many of the chinampas in the immediate vicinity. After the city's fall, the Spanish, rather than integrating the chinampas into their agricultural practices, embarked on massive projects to drain Lake Texcoco. Their European worldview valued dry land over lakes, seeing the lake as a barrier to expansion and a source of perceived unhealthiness based on their own miasma theories. Ironically, this decision, driven by European agricultural practices and urban planning ideals, was fatal for the chinampa system. Draining the lake literally pulled the lifeblood from the floating gardens. As the lake receded, the chinampas, which relied on constant water saturation and nutrient replenishment from the lake bed, began to dry out and degrade. Without the regular dredging of mud from the canals, a practice seen as mere manual labor by the Spanish, rather than a crucial ecological process. The canals silted up, and the chinampa plots lost their fertility. The willow trees, once anchors, died off as their roots lost access to water. The intricate balance was broken, leading to a massive decline in agricultural productivity. The Spanish also introduced new agricultural methods and crops that were ill-suited to the chinampa system or the local environment, but were familiar. To them, European plows, pulled by oxen, couldn't be used on the narrow, fragile chinampa plots. Wheat and other European grains, while introduced, didn't thrive in the same way as native crops in the chinampa soil, further reducing the incentive. To maintain the ancient system, a quirky tidbit, the introduction of European livestock like sheep, goats, and cattle, while economically beneficial in some ways, also contributed to the destruction of the fragile chinampa ecosystem, as these animals would graze on the vegetation of the plots and trample the delicate structures. Historians still debate the specific long-term environmental impacts of European agricultural practices on Mesoamerican landscapes. The decline was not immediate across the entire basin, but it was relentless. Over centuries, the vast networks of chinampas that once surrounded Tenochtitlan dwindled, replaced by dry land, urban sprawl, or abandoned fields. The unique knowledge of chinampa construction and maintenance, once widely shared, became fragmented, held only by a few isolated communities. The incredible agricultural productivity that had sustained millions vanished, placed by a less efficient, less diverse, and more environmentally destructive agricultural system. So, Spanish conquest cast a long shadow over the chinampas, changing the face of the Valley of Mexico forever. It was a tragic loss of an ancient ecological and agricultural marvel. A stark reminder of how cultural biases and a lack of understanding can lead to the destruction of profoundly sustainable systems. The floating vegetables, once the obsession of an empire, became a forgotten art. Buried under layers of new conquest and changing land use, despite centuries of decline and near eradication, the incredible resilience and ingenuity of the chinampa system have not been entirely forgotten. In the modern era, there's a growing movement for modern echoes and revival. Driven by a renewed appreciation for sustainable agriculture, traditional knowledge, and the urgent need for local food production in urban environments. The floating gardens are slowly re-emerging, not just as historical curiosities, but as potential solutions for contemporary challenges. Today, chinampas exist primarily in Xochimilco, a borough in the southern part of Mexico City. This area, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, contains the last remnants of the vast chinampa network that once covered the Valley of Mexico. Here, a dedicated community of chinampa farmers, often descendants of the ancient Aztecs, continue to cultivate the traditional plots, preserving invaluable ancestral knowledge and practical skills. This ongoing traditional farming in Xochimilco is a mainstream historical fact, a living link to the Aztec past. However, these remaining chinampas face severe threats from urban sprawl, water pollution, and climate change. Recognizing their ecological and cultural importance, modern efforts are focused on their restoration and revitalization. This involves scientific research into their hydrological and ecological functions, working with local farmers to implement traditional dredging and planting methods, and promoting sustainable tourism to support the chinampa communities. Imagine ecologists and engineers collaborating with traditional farmers, using modern science to restore ancient wisdom. These revival efforts are driven by several compelling reasons. First, the chinampas represent an incredibly productive and sustainable agricultural system. Their ability to yield multiple harvests year-round with minimal external inputs, thanks to the self-fertilizing mud and passive irrigation, offers a powerful model for urban farming and food security in densely populated areas. As concerns about food miles, industrial agriculture's environmental impact, and climate resilience grow, the chinampa model becomes increasingly attractive. Second, there's a deep cultural and historical imperative to preserve this unique heritage. The chinampas are a living testament to the Aztec Empire's genius, and their survival is crucial for maintaining a tangible link to indigenous knowledge and identity. Efforts to restore them are often intertwined with broader movements to empower local communities and promote indigenous practices. A quirky tidbit that demonstrates modern interest. Some contemporary urban farming initiatives in other parts of the world are exploring adaptations of chinampa-like systems, such as floating rafts for hydroponics or aquaculture in urban waterways, drawing direct inspiration from the Aztec model. This shows how ancient solutions can inspire futuristic innovations. Historians and ecologists still debate the feasibility of scaling up chinampa revival efforts or adapting them to vastly different environmental contexts outside Xochimilco. The challenges are significant. Water quality in Xochimilco is a major concern, as pollution from Mexico City affects the canals. Maintaining the delicate balance of the ecosystem requires continuous effort and funding. However, the dedicated work of conservationists, scientists, and local communities offers hope for the future of these ancient wonders. So, the forgotten art of floating vegetables is experiencing a quiet renaissance. The modern echoes of Aztec ingenuity are being heard, reminding us that the solutions to future challenges might sometimes be found by looking back to the wisdom of the past. The chinampas, once thought lost to conquest and progress, are slowly re-emerging from the shadow of history, offering powerful lessons in sustainability, resilience, and the enduring power of human adaptation. As we delve into the modern echoes of the chinampas, it becomes abundantly clear that these ancient floating gardens offer crucial lessons in sustainability. Their ingenious design and long-term operation, provide a powerful blueprint for how human civilization can interact with its environment to produce abundant food, conserve water, and maintain ecological balance. Principles that are more vital than ever in our contemporary world. One of the most compelling lessons is the principle of closed-loop nutrient cycling. The chinampas thrived on the continuous recycling of organic matter and lake sediment, constantly enriching their soil without the need for external fertilizers or artificial inputs. This natural fertilization system, where waste became a resource, stands in stark contrast to modern industrial agriculture's reliance on synthetic fertilizers, which can lead to runoff pollution and soil degradation. The chinampas demonstrate that truly sustainable agriculture is about working with natural processes to regenerate soil fertility, not deplete it. This intrinsic sustainability is a mainstream lesson from chinampa studies. Secondly, the chinampas teach us about efficient water management. In an era of increasing water scarcity, their passive irrigation system, relying on capillary action from the surrounding canals, offers a remarkable model. It provided consistent moisture to crops with minimal water loss due to evaporation or runoff, especially compared to flood irrigation or inefficient spraying. The system was self-regulating, adapting to plant needs by simply being connected to the water table. This intelligent water use is a vital lesson for a world grappling with fresh water shortages. The chinampas also highlight the importance of biodiversity and polyculture. By growing a wide variety of crops in a mixed system like the Three Sisters, Aztec gardeners fostered a healthier soil ecosystem, reduced pest outbreaks, and maintained greater genetic diversity within their food supply. This contrasts with modern monoculture, which often leads to soil erosion, increased reliance on pesticides, and vulnerability to widespread crop failure. The chinampas show that diversity is not just an ecological ideal, it's a practical strategy for long-term agricultural resilience. Furthermore, these floating gardens offer a lesson in long-term ecological engineering and land creation. The Aztecs didn't just adapt to their environment, they actively reshaped it to create new, highly productive land out of water in a way that was fundamentally sustainable for centuries. This challenges our modern tendency to convert natural ecosystems like wetlands into single-use farmlands, often with destructive long-term consequences. The chinampas demonstrate how human ingenuity can be used to enhance natural systems for mutual benefit. A quirky tidbit. Some researchers propose that modern cities could integrate chinampa-inspired floating farms into urban waterways as a way to reclaim polluted areas and create hyperlocal food sources, turning overlooked spaces into productive green infrastructure. Historians still debate the extent to which the Aztecs consciously understood all the ecological benefits of their system versus simply developing pragmatic solutions that happen to be sustainable. Finally, the story of the chinampas is a reminder of the value of indigenous knowledge. For centuries, this sophisticated system was maintained and understood by local communities, a wisdom often dismissed or destroyed by colonial powers. The modern revival efforts underscore the critical importance of learning from ancestral practices and integrating them with contemporary science to address complex global challenges. It's a call to humility and a recognition that ancient solutions can provide powerful insights for our future. So, the Aztec obsession with floating vegetables was not just a marvel of the past. It's a living lesson for our present and a blueprint for our future. The chinampas stand as a testament to the fact that it is possible to feed large populations, thrive economically, and live in profound harmony with the environment. Their legacy urges us to consider a more mindful, integrated, and sustainable approach to food, land, and water. The journey through Aztec ingenuity and the chinampa system offers profound archaeological crumbs, providing tangible evidence that allows us to reconstruct and understand this remarkable agricultural feat. While historical accounts, particularly from the Spanish, provide valuable narratives, it's the painstaking work of archaeologists that unearths the physical proof, cementing our understanding of how these floating gardens actually worked in their sheer scale. The most compelling archaeological evidence comes from the remnants of the chinampas themselves. In areas like Xochimilco, where the system still partially exists. Archaeologists can study the stratigraphy, the layering of mud, organic matter, and reeds that forms the chinampa plots. Excavations reveal the careful construction techniques, the depth of the original canals, and the presence of ancient wooden stakes that anchored these artificial islands. Analysis of the soil composition shows the continuous enrichment from lake sediment and organic material over centuries, confirming their unique fertility. This physical evidence directly supports historical descriptions and scientific hypotheses about chinampa construction and function, beyond the plots themselves. Archaeologists have uncovered tools used for chinampa maintenance. These include long-handled dredging poles made from wood and remnants of woven baskets used for transporting mud and produce. While many organic tools have long since disintegrated, their impressions in the mud or associated metal fittings provide valuable clues. These finds illustrate the specific technologies and labor-intensive processes involved in building and maintaining the chinampas. A quirky tidbit: some archaeological digs have even found ancient Aztec farming implements, like simple digging sticks koa, remarkably similar to those still used by traditional China pros today, highlighting the continuity of agricultural practice over centuries. Historians still debate the precise evolution of these tools and techniques. The sediments of Lake Texcoco themselves are a rich source of archaeological data. Cores drilled from the lakebed reveal layers of environmental change, including evidence of drainage efforts by the Spanish, and, conversely, periods of intensive chinampa construction. Pollen analysis from these core samples can identify the types of crops grown over different eras, confirming the agricultural diversity and productivity of the chinampas. Faunal remains fish bones. Amphibian skeletons found in the canals provide evidence of the aquatic ecosystems that thrived alongside the gardens, contributing to their fertility. Archaeological investigations of Aztec urban centers, particularly Tenochtitlan and Tlatelolco, also offer indirect clues. The sheer scale of population density in these cities, inferred from architectural remains and burial sites, strongly suggests that only an exceptionally productive agricultural system like the chinampas could have sustained them. Of the cities, with extensive canals leading directly to market areas, lines perfectly with the chinampa-based transport system for food. Furthermore, surviving Aztec codices, pictorial manuscripts provide visual and textual information about chinampa agriculture, depicting farmers working the plots, canals, and crops. While these are historical documents, their accuracy is often confirmed by archaeological findings. It's creating a powerful synergy between written records and physical evidence. So the chinampas are not just a story told in books. Into the landscape itself, leaving behind a wealth of archaeological crumbs. These remnants, painstakingly unearthed and analyzed, provide concrete proof of a forgotten art, allowing us to reconstruct the ingenuity of Aztec gardeners and truly appreciate their mastery of sustainable agriculture on water. It's a testament to the fact that the earth holds countless secrets, waiting for diligent hands to uncover them. From the tangible archaeological crumbs of the past, we gather profound lessons in sustainability from the Aztec chinampas. This ancient agricultural system, thriving for centuries, it offers a powerful blueprint for how human societies can achieve immense productivity while simultaneously nurturing their environment, providing vital insights for our contemporary world. Grappling with climate change, resource depletion, and food security, one of the most compelling lessons is the principle of closed-loop nutrient cycling. The chinampas thrived on the continuous recycling of organic matter in nutrient-rich lake sediment, effectively creating their own fertilizer without external inputs. This waste-to-resource model stands in stark contrast to modern industrial agriculture, which relies heavily on synthetic fertilizers with their associated environmental costs, runoff, energy consumption for production. The chinampas demonstrate that truly sustainable agriculture is about working with natural processes to regenerate soil fertility, not deplete it. This intrinsic sustainability is a mainstream lesson from chinampa studies. Secondly, the chinampas teach us about efficient and intelligent water management. In an era of increasing global water scarcity, their passive irrigation system, relying on capillary action from the surrounding canals, offers a remarkable model. It provided consistent moisture to crops with minimal water loss due to evaporation, or runoff, especially compared to flood irrigation or inefficient spraying. The system was largely self-regulating, adapting to plant needs by simply being connected to the water table. This ingenious water use is a vital lesson for a world grappling with fresh water shortages and the need for water-efficient farming. The chinampas also highlight the critical importance of biodiversity and polyculture. By growing a wide variety of crops in a mixed system like the Three Sisters rather than monoculture, Aztec gardeners fostered a healthier soil ecosystem, enhanced pest resistance, and maintained greater genetic diversity within their food supply. This increased ecological resilience meant less reliance on pesticides and a more stable food source. The chinampas showed that diversity is not just an ecological ideal. It's a practical and effective strategy for long-term agricultural resilience. Furthermore, these floating gardens offer a lesson in long-term ecological engineering and land creation. The Aztecs didn't just adapt to their environment, they actively reshaped it to create new, highly productive land out of water, in a way that was fundamentally sustainable for centuries. This challenges our modern tendency to convert natural ecosystems like wetlands or forests into single-use farmlands, often with destructive long-term consequences. The chinampas demonstrate how human ingenuity can be used to enhance natural systems for mutual benefit, turning perceived barriers, a lake, into assets. A quirky tidbit: some contemporary ecological restoration projects in polluted urban waterways are looking at chinampa-inspired floating wetlands as a way to naturally filter water, create wildlife habitat, and potentially even grow food, demonstrating a direct modern application of ancient wisdom. Historians still debate the extent to which the Aztecs consciously understood all the ecological benefits of their system versus simply developing pragmatic solutions that happen to be profoundly sustainable. Finally, the story of the chinampas is a powerful reminder of the value of indigenous knowledge. For centuries, this sophisticated system was maintained and understood by local communities, a wisdom often dismissed or even destroyed by colonial powers. The modern revival efforts underscore the critical importance of learning from ancestral practices and integrating them with contemporary science to address complex global challenges. It's a call to humility and a recognition that ancient solutions can provide powerful insights for our future. So, the Aztec obsession with floating vegetables was not just a marvel of the past, it's a living lesson for our present and a blueprint for our future. The chinampas stand as a testament to the fact that it is possible to feed large populations, thrive economically, and live in profound harmony with the environment. Their legacy urges us to consider a more mindful, integrated, and sustainable approach to food, land, and water. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long, peaceful shadows over the ancient, and now often dry, lakebed of Mexico City, we bring our fascinating journey to a gentle close. The story of the Aztec gardeners and their obsession with floating vegetables is more than just a historical account. It's a profound testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and the timeless rhythms of life connected to the land. Tonight, we embrace dreaming of green waters, reflecting on the enduring legacy of the chinampas and what they whisper to us from the past. Think about the sheer scale of their achievement, transforming a challenging island environment into a vibrant, continuously productive agricultural marvel capable of feeding a metropolis of hundreds of thousands. From the meticulous engineering of building layers of mud, reeds, and soil anchored by willow trees, to the constant, self-sustaining irrigation provided by the lake's gentle embrace. Remember the incredible nutrient-rich harvests, yielding multiple crops a year from soil perpetually regenerated by dredging, and the astonishing diversity of foods cultivated on these watery plots. The chinampas were the very fabric of Aztec society, shaping labor, fueling the bustling floating markets, and serving as a powerful symbol of their ingenuity. Yet, we also reflected on the tragic shadow of the Spanish conquest, which through misunderstanding and deliberate land transformation led to the near eradication of this sustainable system. But the story doesn't end there. In modern Xochimilco, the faint echoes of this ancient art continue, with dedicated communities and scientists working to revive these incredible gardens, teaching us crucial lessons in sustainable agriculture, efficient water management, and the invaluable wisdom of indigenous practices. The chinampas stand as a living blueprint for a future where food production can be abundant, localized, and ecologically harmonious. A quirky tidbit to leave you with, connecting the very essence of the chinampas to a modern sense of peace. Imagine the quiet rhythm of the Aztec gardener, a sense of deep calm derived from working so intimately with the cycles of nature. The continuous flow of water, the steady growth of plants, the constant replenishment of the earth would have fostered a profound tranquility. This peaceful engagement with the land, ensuring sustenance for countless lives, embodies a quiet heroism, a different kind of strength than that found on any battlefield. Perhaps in their obsession with floating vegetables, the Aztec gardeners found not just food, but a deep, sustaining inner peace. So, as you drift deeper into your own slumber, let the image of vast green floating gardens shimmer in your mind. Hear the gentle lapping of water against their fertile edges, and imagine the quiet abundance they provided. Let the wisdom of working with nature, of finding ingenious solutions to profound challenges, guide you into a tranquil, restorative sleep. The forgotten art has been remembered, its lessons shared. Sleep well, knowing that true genius often lies in cultivating harmony with the world around us. Good night.